want to take a minute to introduce you guys to a training principle that I've developed that we've been using here at the Miami location for a while. Some of you are going to be familiar with this if you've trained with me directly, or if you've been participating in any of the studies that we have going on right now. For the vast majority of you, this is going to be completely new. But once you understand the general structure, it's a pretty easy system to follow. What we're talking about here is TRAC, which stands for Total Repetition Accumulation Cycle. Following anytime you see TRAC, you're going to see a few numbers that make up the general definition of what you're working with, which is total volume, target sets, and then your rest time in seconds. The best way to explain this is to use an example. So here we have an example. These numbers could be anything. They're easily adjustable depending on what we're trying to achieve from a training standpoint. But in this scenario, what we have is 30 total repetitions. We're trying to get those 30 repetitions within 5 sets with a 90-second break in between each set. So let's say hypothetically your weight for that exercise is 100 pounds. You're going to warm up to 100 pounds, and on your first set, you're going to complete as many repetitions as possible, rest 90 seconds. Complete as many repetitions as possible, rest 90 seconds. And you're going to repeat this until you've done a total of 30 repetitions. These are the rules come into play. If you can get this in 5 sets or less, you'll increase your weight the following week. In most scenarios, you're trying to increase by close to as little weight as possible. So we're going to say 5 total pounds. So in week 2, you would start with 105 pounds, and you would repeat the process again. If it takes you 6, 7, 8 sets to complete, you stay at the same weight and repeat until you can get it in the 5 sets or less. So the other 2 numbers that are going to be provided to you are there for an auto-regulated purpose. So what we have is an ARI and an ARD, which is an auto-regulated increase and an auto-regulated decrease. And they'll be provided to you in a format like this. You'll have your ARI, your ARD. So down here, what this would be in this scenario is actually 12 and 6. Now we have a formula that we use to calculate these, and it's an ever-evolving formula. The formula you don't need to know because we're going to be providing you with the numbers anyway. What you do need to know is how to apply this. These 2 numbers apply only to your first set. After your first set, these numbers are irrelevant. What we're trying to use these for is to figure out if you're having an above-average training day or maybe a more difficult training day. There's a lot of different factors that can play into that. We just want to make sure we take advantage of the good days and back off on you on the truly bad days. On your first set, if you get 12 or more repetitions, it's basically signaling that the weight might be a little bit light for that day. So you're going to make next week's increase starting with the second set of the current week. So you have your hypothetical 100 pounds. You do 12 repetitions on the first set. On set number 2, you're moving up to 105 pounds and finishing the remaining portion of your 30 reps. You will not again increase the following week. You will start at 105 pounds. Remember, you're just making the following week or training sessions increase early. The 6 signals that there's some stuff going on. Not enough sleep, your nervous system is taxed, stress, eating. There's a number of factors that could play into this. Whatever it is, you're having an abnormally bad day. You're actually going to decrease the weight moving forward if you hit this number or less. So this, remember, only applies to your first set. This is your increase, decrease, and that's all you need to know. You don't really have to understand how we get those numbers right now. They'll be provided to you. Alright, so let's take a look at one final example. So let's say we have a TRAC. We have 20, 5, 120. In this scenario, our ARI and ARD are going to be 8 and 4. use a hypothetical weight of 200 pounds. The progression could look something, let's use the ARI to make sure that we see how this is used. You have 200 pounds on the bar, you've warmed up, you're ready to go. We'll say this is a bench. You bench and you get 9 repetitions on your first set. Okay? We have 9, so we need to apply the ARI. So we're going to go up to 205 pounds starting here. Okay? So now we're up to 205. So you get 5, 4, 3. We've hit our 20 repetitions, and we've actually done it in less than 5 sets. In the very beginning, this is going to happen pretty frequently. At least for the first few weeks. By frequently, I don't mean for months. Because we're going to recommend weights for you that are a little on the lighter side, so that you can actually begin to generate some momentum as you progress week after week. Since we made our 205 pound, the jump to 205 pounds here, we're not going to increase again the next week. So the following week, you're going to start at 205 pounds on your first set. Okay? It's important to remember that you always apply these two things, and it's important to remember that you keep an eye on this and make sure that you're making the jumps in the following week if you've met your target number of sets. The biggest question we have with people is, where do I start weight-wise? And the recommendation we try to give to people is, in the first week, we'd actually like you to be hitting your ARI. So you're always going to want to look at it as, start with a weight that you know you can do at least 8 times in this case. If the ARI is 12, look for something you can do at least 12. That's going to ensure that you're starting with a weight that's lighter than the maximum weight you could actually complete this with. Generating momentum is extremely important in this program. You don't want to start off at a point where you're stuck already, or at a point where it's very difficult to actually, maybe you're just eking out the target number of sets. We've seen with everybody that we've been working with, the more momentum you can generate week after week, by the end of a training cycle, the more progress you're going to make. The biggest mistake you can make is starting too high. And maybe you're almost hitting your ARD in the first week. I can assure you, you're not going to reap the full benefits of the program that way. Just kind of a couple things I want to touch on before you guys actually get started with this is, one of the big benefits in getting the most out of this program is looking at the numbers you have and really looking at every single training session as an actual challenge. We actually almost called it Total Repetition Accumulation Challenge, because that's the kind of mentality you need to go in with. If you need to get it in 5 sets in order to make that increase next week, you should be doing everything in your power to get everything in 5 sets. Bringing in that kind of mentality is gonna completely change your attitude towards your workout, the kind of purpose you come in with every day. You're really missing out on what this program can bring to you if you take a kind of lackadaisical approach and don't push yourself and almost purposely back off a little bit so you're not hitting those sets. 2 final thoughts I want to make is, 1, when you're doing this, all of your movements need to be incredibly strict and consistent. On certain things, that's easy. Bench press, it's a defined bottom and top position. Your deadlift, if it gets up into a lockout position, but when this is applied to certain things, for example, a barbell curl. Maybe in week 1, you're getting full extension and full contraction, you're not using any body, you're not using any swinging, but you keep adding in these little factors in cheats to go up in weight, and next thing you know, you're going to be 6 weeks into the program, and yeah, you've increased in weight, but the repetitions are so far from a perfect rep that you may not have made any progress at all. The only way that this works is if you use consistent, strict movements. They need to be measurable. The way that it was done on week 1 needs to look exactly the same that it was done on week 2, and then the same that it looked on week 3. And then if you're 8 weeks in, you should be able to look at a video yourself on week 1 and see the exact same thing, just with more weight. And finally, always go all out on the first set. I don't want you to hit complete failure. You should be able to complete all of the repetitions. I don't want you getting stuck on any repetitions, but do not try to divide things up. If you have a TRAC 25-90, do not try to divide it up into 5 sets of 4. Your first set needs to be all out. You can apply strategy after your first set. We want you to be able to push for maximum repetitions. We're developing a lot of the numbers and providing numbers to you based on how many reps we want you to get on the first set. And if you start dividing it up, you're going to end up with the wrong weights and you're not going to reap the full benefits of the program. We also use those numbers to help calculate weights for different tracks. So if you're shorting yourself and trying to divide things up, it's going to provide us inaccurate numbers. You know, if we're using those numbers to calculate approximate 1 rep maximums, or just if we're using some kind of formula to take that number and figure out how much weight to use in a different track. So remember, do not try to pace yourself from the beginning. Go all out, develop strategy if you want on the second set and beyond. Last thing is, just know that TRAC is and has been and will continue to be a developing training principle. You know, we've been using it here for quite a while. However, it looks a lot different than it did when we first started, and it probably doesn't look much like it's going to look down the road from now. However, the more we're using it, the more people we have using it, the more different things we're applying it to, the more we're learning about it and how we can manipulate the numbers to really start to maximize the training benefit. So this is where we're at now, and it will probably change a little bit in the future, but obviously those are updates that we'll provide with you. And as they become available, we will adjust your training to accommodate what we've learned over the time. Either way, we hope you enjoy it, and we hope you see as much progress as we've been seeing here with it.